Welcome, everyone. We're just going to wait a couple minutes to let people trickle in before we get started. But welcome and thank you very much for coming.
Yes, thank you folks for making the time to join us. Presumably this evening for most of you. I know sometimes there might be the odd time when somebody might be joining from a different location, but they still kind of want to hear a couple of things about St. Thomas. So we'll get started here momentarily. I will allow our MC here to introduce themselves. So in order for us to kind of get a better sense of who's talking about Stu this evening, Louise, do you mind kind of giving our audience here a little bit of a sense of who you are, your background, your role, even a little bit about your Stu journey, if that makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mike. So my name is Louise, and I am an admissions counselor at St. Thomas. So similarly to my colleague Mike, I have the honor of working with high school students or anyone who's interested in attending university to help them make those decisions about, what school might be the best fit for them, and more specifically, whether STU is the best fit for them. So St. Thomas. So I have been traveling to kind of share the STU message around Ontario. I'm currently I'm outside of Toronto. I'm in Oshawa right now. Not sure how many of you are joining from Ontario this evening, but I've been around Ontario, so I've been able to meet some students who are thinking about potentially St. Thomas. Um, I was also a student at St. Thomas. I did a Bachelor of Arts and I did an honors in Spanish language and literature and a major in human rights. And then I went on to do our 1 year postgraduate Bachelor of Education. So I was a 2-time graduate from St. Thomas, and now I'm back as a staff doing this job. And I am originally from New Brunswick. So I actually grew up about an hour away from St. Thomas. And I went there for the human rights program. That was what really drew me to the school. My parents also went to St. Thomas, so they were very excited about that decision. So yeah, I came for the human rights program and I stayed for the great people, the great academics, the great everything. So all that kind of stuff that we're going to talk a little bit about tonight.
Perfect. Very well said. I feel like we're probably going to be hearing quite a bit about human rights tonight. That's a bit of a spoiler for those of you waiting to stick around for the Q&A, which we will get to a Q&A too, as mentioned by Louise. That being said, if you have questions over the course of the presentation side of things before we jump into the Q&A, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A bubble, and we'll be sure to get to those once the Q&A resumes. But nonetheless, Louise, I believe the virtual floor is yours, and you can expect a little bit more company once we get to the panel. But otherwise, yeah, we will leave it with Louise.
Awesome. Thank you again, Mike. All right. So thank you everybody for attending this info session. I hope that we can answer any questions that you have and kind of just give you more context and more information about our university, St. Thomas, which we often refer to as STU. If you hear us say STU, St. Thomas University. So I already kind of introduced myself a little bit. I'm Louise. I'm an admissions counselor, the person here in this picture. So tonight we're going to talk about all these types of things. And these are the types of topics that I often talk about with students. So programs that we offer, what types of interests do you have, and what do we have that kind of offers that and matches that at STU? How to apply for admission. I know that's usually what I get the most questions about from students is, of course, how do I apply? How does it work? And another frequently asked question is about our scholarships and bursaries. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then about optimizing your STU experience. So learning about what it's like to go to St. Thomas overall, because it's not just about the academics, it's about the university experience. So we'll talk about all of this and more this evening. And how to get involved in today's session. So for now, Mike kind of explained this already. So if you can keep your camera and microphone off, you will have your questions answered in our Q&A box. So if they occur to you as the presentation is going on, please feel free to write them in. And then at the end, we will kind of get into all of the questions, answer everything in our little panel with Mike and with a current student who's also here joining us tonight. So yeah, please get involved. We really want to hear from you. We want you to take this opportunity to chat with us afterwards. Alrighty, so now let's talk about stew. So I know you are all joining us from Central Canada. So you're not too far away from us. We are about a 2-hour flight from Toronto, and we're located on the East Coast. So if you've ever been out to the East Coast, I don't have to tell you how beautiful it is. I hope you enjoyed your visit. If you haven't been, I definitely recommend taking a trip out there. There's so much to see. We're right on the ocean. So you can see here on the map, we are in Fredericton, which is a capital of New Brunswick, the capital, sorry, only one. And Fredericton is a capital city, but it is still a small city because our cities out here on the East Coast are, of course, smaller. So it is a small town feeling, but it has a lot to offer despite its size. So for instance, we are the capital, so we are home to, provincial and municipal governments. There's lots going on there in the political world, lots going on there in terms of businesses, startups. It's also a very artistic city. So we have annual music festivals, arts festivals, art galleries all over the city, culture just really everywhere. There's always something to do in Fredericton. You really can't get bored there. If you like to be outdoors, it's an ideal place for that. We have over 100 kilometers of walking and biking trails. We have this picture here is of a bridge that goes over the river that you saw in the last picture. You can walk across that. It's just a really gorgeous place to live. Lots going on. Lots of opportunities for students, for people looking for careers. Really, there's so much going on there for you to get involved in right from when you first arrive in the city. So I really have enjoyed living there, and I still enjoy it lots. So a few more factoids about Fredericton. So we are regularly featured in the top Canadian communities to live in. So we're one of the best. We are one of North America's most bike-friendly cities, which is kind of interesting. You really can get anywhere on foot or on a bike, which I really like. It's a very walkable city, but also a very bikeable city. So if you like to bike, we have been named the startup capital of Canada. So that just shows how much entrepreneurship is happening in our city. I know several people who've started their own businesses in Fredericton and become quite successful. Lots of stories like that coming out of our city all the time. We are also a top micro city in North America, which is kind of a cool title to hold, and a top city in Canada to do business in general. So lots and lots happening in Fredericton for sure, and it's a beautiful place. So alrighty, so now we can talk more specifically about St. Thomas. And I get this question a lot from people, especially when I may be in Ontario and we're a smaller school, so we're lesser known in terms of name recognition. So people often ask me, what are you known for? What is your school known for? And this is what I always tell them. We are Canada's only public university that is exclusively dedicated to the liberal arts. So that means that we have our main degree program as the Bachelor of Arts, and all of the resources on campus, all of our funding goes into the arts. So we really value the liberal arts. And I'll explain a little bit more about what liberal arts means specifically, because it might be kind of an abstract term to you. But we are the only university in Canada, the only publicly funded university in Canada that only focuses on the arts. So that makes us a really special place for those people who are drawn to the liberal arts, to those humanities and social science subjects. Something else about our university that I always like to tell people is that we're very proud to be home to students from around 35 different countries. So 10% of our student body, 10%, above 10%, comes from outside of Canada. So we have a large multicultural community on campus, always different things happening. Actually, I'll just mention quickly, we have on our campus a wall of flags, and every single student has their flag on the wall. And this is right in one of our central buildings. So every single day that you're at St. Thomas, you can go and see your flag represented. And just on Monday, I believe it was this past Monday, they had the annual ceremony where they changed the flag. So if a student arrives from a country that isn't currently represented, then there's a ceremony where we put their flag up. So that was kind of interesting. I didn't attend the ceremony because I'm in Ontario, but I saw it on Instagram Live and it looked like a great time. So we're really proud to be home to those students. They enrich our community, enrich our school. So that is a really good thing as well. You meet lots of people from all over the place while you are at St. Thomas. Another really important fact about St. Thomas, something else that I often tell people what we're known for, is small class sizes. We can offer small class sizes because we are a small university. The largest class that you will ever sit in will have 60 students in it. So that is our maximum class. And most likely in your first year, if you're taking a larger, more popular course, you will sit in a classroom with 60 students, but the numbers will just dwindle after that. I know the smallest class I've ever been in was only 2 students. That is rare, but it does, of course, occur because it happened for me. So it was myself and then another student and the professor, but I was very good friends with this other student because we'd studied for 4 years together. It's my final year. And the professor, I knew her very well as well from just studying in the department. So the average class size is 24. So that's closer to what you'll have. That's probably around the same size as your high school classes currently. So it's a really, really huge benefit in the university education, because I always like to say that you get to take a driver's seat in your education. If you want to participate in discussions, ask questions, you are encouraged to do so. You get to know your professor, you can visit their office hours, talk to them after class, get to know your peers who are also studying your same program. By the time you're in 4th year, you'll know the people in your program very well, and you're with a group of like-minded people who are all passionate about the same subject as you. So there are quite a few benefits to this smaller learning environment. I know personally for me, I don't know if I could have learned as well in a larger environment. So I really, really appreciate this about St. Thomas. And our professors are absolutely wonderful. They're at St. Thomas because they want to teach, they want to engage with students. But not only are they, wonderful people, they're also very well regarded, high regarded in their fields. So 99% of our full-time professors do hold the highest degree in their field, which is oftentimes going to be a PhD, a doctorate degree. So our professors are very, of course, educated people. They have lots of experience in the fields in which they are teaching. So you know that you are learning from true experts. You're getting the opportunity to work closely with true experts, which is really quite special. Alrighty, so now I will break down a little bit more what liberal arts means. So in our Bachelor of Arts, the topics that we offer as majors can be considered social sciences or humanities. So I'll show you kind of a list of what that means. But something we like to emphasize with the liberal arts is that it is a well-rounded style of education. So when you study, for instance, I studied human rights. But when I studied human rights, I was also studying history. I'm also studying international relations. I was also studying philosophy. So your courses are very interdisciplinary. You are not just learning from one perspective and following one stream of thought. You are looking outwards to create your own understandings on these complex world issues. So we really want our students to walk away with critical thinking skills, good oral and written communication skills, the ability to research and analyze and form their own opinions. So a liberal arts degree is more than just one subject that you're studying. It refers to something much broader and much more valuable. So this is a list of all of the disciplines within our Bachelor of Arts. So these topics you can do majors in. So a major is when you focus in and get a certain amount of credit hours in one subject. The majority of our students are doing double majors. So they've chosen 2 of these subjects to do. That is what I did. And a lot of other people. So you do have time to definitely focus on more than one subject, and we certainly encourage it at St. Thomas. So if you look here at this list, you probably recognize a lot of these words. There might be some that you have offered at your high schools right now. There might be some that are new to you. So for instance, gerontology is oftentimes a subject that people haven't heard of before. I know I hadn't heard of it before I came to St. Thomas. That is the social science of, older people, aging people. So you're looking at kind of what happens psychologically for people as they age, how society treats older people. So topics such as ageism, you're looking at things like death, dying. So it is a very interesting field of study that we do offer a complete comprehensive program on at St. Thomas, and it's one of our more unique programs. So that's one I get questions on, which is why I thought I'd delve into it a little bit more. But this is our complete list of the disciplines that you can focus on at STU. We also offer a Bachelor of Social Work, and this program is very, very cool because you can do it in 4 years. And typically a Bachelor of Social Work is going to take you longer than that. So we have created a program that is a complete comprehensive social work program that you can do in just 4 years. So just to quickly explain, the way it works is that you enter into our general Bachelor of Arts program. And for the first 2 years of your degree, you just study arts. You take whichever subjects you're interested in. You'll take 2 2 intro to social work courses in those 2 years as well. And then you'll apply during your second year to switch into the Bachelor of Social Work for your third and fourth year. And at that point, you would be taking all social work courses if you're accepted and doing your placements working with the government in social work. So in 4 years, you graduate as a registered social worker and you have this amazing education to help you in that field. So this is a really cool program that we are very, very proud to be one of the only universities in Atlantic Canada that offers this. So something that is very, very important to us at St. Thomas is this idea of experiential learning. So this means literally learning through experience. So not just sitting in a classroom, reading a book, listening to a lecture. That is not the way that we want you to learn at St. Thomas, because that is not the best way to learn. So experiential learning is definitely at the heart of everything we do, as it says. We really want our students to get out into the community, out into the wider world, and use the theoretical knowledge that they are learning in the classroom in those real life settings. This is the best way to, practice, of course, what you've learned and try it out. See more of, what kind of work you might like to do, what kind of work maybe you don't want to do. So we offer our students as many opportunities for experiential learning as we can. We're always trying to connect students with more. So I'll explain a bit about what those opportunities might look like to you if you attend St. Thomas. So we really try to put a huge emphasis on work experiences. So we do have an Office of Experiential and Community-Based Learning that hosts our internship program. So our students are able to get paid internships at any point that they're at St. Thomas. Or some of the internships do allow for credits to be applied for your class, but you can get a paid internship anytime. This is something that you would do during the school year while you're studying. So it's 10 to 15 hours of flexible work. You're a student first, so your employer is definitely going to acknowledge that. And so it's going to be something that works well with your schedule, your school schedule. You could also do it in the summer. But we do have a lot of students who will intern during their time studying. And we have a long list of community partners that take on our students all the time. So you can look through and find something that really matches with your career goals, your interests. You can try out different things. But if there's something on the list, or if there's something that you have in mind that you would like to do, if there's something specific or a specific company you'd like to work with, you can always come to the Office of Experiential and Community-Based Learning and chat with our people in there to help design an internship that meets your needs specifically. So we really encourage our students to do these internships. Actually, we've had quite a few students who have done internships at different community partners in our city and then have been offered full-time jobs after graduation with those same organizations, because they just love our students. Our students are just doing great job and great work at those organizations. So we're very proud of that as well. Some of just the different types of organizations on the top of my head that have taken our students would be, for instance, the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission. They have had our students, that's a government office, of course, the Canadian Mental Health Society. We have different organizations that work with youth, that work with persons with disabilities. So really, there's such a long list of different opportunities. Regardless of what your interests are, we can definitely find you something that fits. Another opportunity that we want all of our students to have is to travel and to go abroad and see more of the world. So we do offer a international exchange program. So this would be when you take a semester or a year, whatever you want to do, and go study in a different university somewhere else in the world. So you can see the list here of some of the countries that we have partnered universities with. So when you go on an international exchange, you pay your regular tuition fees to St. Thomas. So you don't have to worry about paying extra fees. And then you are in another country studying. So really the fees you have to worry about would be your flights and your accommodations while you're there. But in terms of what you're paying to study, it's the same as any other regular semester at St. Thomas. So that's quite a big benefit. It makes doing this a little bit more affordable, more accessible for people, which is definitely what we want. So you can choose one of these countries and go, live your best life abroad somewhere, wherever you like to go. But we also, if you're not looking to do a full semester, or if you have another experience, we do offer quite a few different travel studies. So these could be 2 to 4 weeks long. These are shorter things. They're oftentimes, they are organized within departments. So for instance, our Great Books department is going to take a group of students to Greece this spring. So that's happening. We actually last week, a group of students were in New York during the reading week. So students had a week off. So some went to New York City. Our Office of Experiential and Community-Based Learning actually also took, I believe, a dozen students to Costa Rica last week to work with an environmental non-government organization that we have a partnership with. So we have had students who interned with them remotely during the pandemic when we couldn't travel. And then now that we can travel, St. Thomas actually took a group of students there to have that experience. And that was free for the students. It was at no cost to them. So we are just really trying to connect our students with as many opportunities to learn, to travel, to work as we possibly can. So if you like to travel, we definitely have many options for you here. So, like I said at the beginning, university is not just about the academics. It's not even just about, building career skills, even though we definitely want to emphasize that. It's about the experience that you have. So this is maybe your first time living away from home, being on your own. And there is a lot of fun to be had at university and at St. Thomas, and lots of different things that you can get involved with on our very active campus. So I want to tell you more about that, about what your life might look like on a day-to-day at St. Thomas. So first of all, since you are all in Central Canada, I'm assuming that when you do go to university, if you go away from home, you're going to want to live in residence. So if you came all the way to New Brunswick, we would definitely recommend that you live on campus in residence for at least your first year. So we have 3 residences on campus. We have Harrington Hall and Vanier Hall, which are co-ed buildings. And then we have Holy Cross House, which is an all-female residence. So we have a few options there. Myself, I lived in Harrington Hall for 2 years, and I could talk about it all day long. I won't go on and on about it. I will just say that living on campus is a really incredible experience. You meet your great friends there, and you really create a community just within your house. So we have things set up so that when you come to campus, you don't have to worry. Everything is there for you. So your room will come equipped with the furniture that you need. We have laundry rooms, we have kitchens, we have study lounges, and we have like more social lounges with TVs in all of our residences. We have cable and fiber optic internet included. Everything that you might need is right on campus. So we have a student health center, we have a pharmacy, we have really anything that you might find yourself needing. And you'll be able to make friends from all over the place during your time in residence. So it's really quite wonderful. The first week of university for our first year students is called Welcome Week. And that is when you move in a few days before classes start to kind of get your bearings, start meeting people. And Welcome Week is a very full, social, fun week full of different activities to allow you to mingle with people from all around campus, not just within your specific house, but everyone. And just to kind of get comfortable and get on your feet at university. So we have a very exciting Welcome Week planned every year. It's so much fun. And then finally, we also have a dining hall on campus, of course, so you would eat all your meals there. You don't have to worry about cooking or doing dishes, which is kind of nice. And we have lots of variety, lots of options, and we can accommodate any unique food needs. So we really just want to make your experience moving to campus and living on campus as easy as possible. So we kind of have everything that you need right there and can accommodate you with whatever. Alrighty, and then speaking of accommodating you, we have a lot of supports on campus because the transition to university can be difficult. There's a lot of different things happening, and we want to make sure that when students come to university, they are set up for success from day one. So we have a lot of different student services. So first of all, I'll just quickly go through some of our academic services. You can see here a list. We have accessibility services. So if you have any type of disability that you need accommodations for, we are very well prepared to set that up for you. No worries about that. We have a writing center where you can bring your essays to get some feedback on those, get some help writing them. And we also have peer tutoring, so that's included in your tuition. You have access to 2 hours of tutoring a week. So we really have quite a few different academic supports that we want our students to take full advantage of. We even have a student success coach who helps with all different types of study skills, but also life skills. So like time management, budgeting, all those types of things that you're gonna, start to think about when you get to university and you're kind of out on your own. And then for personal supports, we have, again, a very long list. We have a mental health coordinator on campus. We have lots of different mental wellness events happening all the time. We have dog therapy all the time, which is exactly what it sounds like. We have dogs who visit campus and you can just pet them and look at them and they cheer you up. And they are there pretty frequently. Those events happen quite a lot, especially during, maybe exam season when people are a little stressed out. Kind of helps to go and meet a cute puppy. So just all kinds of things always happening on campus. We want people to, take a break from studying and just, relax their mind, be mindful. So we have, sometimes yoga classes or Zumba classes, things like that happening. We have counseling for our students. So really just a lot of different things at play here so that we can support you in whichever way you need support. And something that is important to know as well is that you can connect with these offices before you come to St. Thomas if need be. So if you have a specific accessibility concern, your admissions counselor, so like myself, can help to connect you with that office so that you can kind of talk that through and get some peace of mind before you come to St. Thomas. So we definitely want to make sure you feel confident. And we're also just home to a supportive community overall. So we have all those supports in place, those more formal supports. We have also just a lot of different communities. Our community is always very inclusive and welcoming, but there are smaller communities on campus that you can also get involved in. So you could do that through joining clubs and societies. We have quite a few different clubs and societies on campus. And there's always a fair at the beginning of the year where they all set up a booth. So you can kind of walk around and get to know, what's going on, what might I like to join. So for instance, we have a Best Buddies Club. That was something I did at St. Thomas. We have a Rotaract Club, which is like a subsidiary of Rotary, if you are familiar with that. We have a lot of our a lot of our academic departments have student societies. So for instance, we have a gerontology society, a great book society. We also have some students who have created a pre-law society. So if you're interested in law, some students like-minded there who kind of help each other to prepare for that professional endeavor. And so we have all of those clubs and societies. And we also have our student newspaper. We have our student union, which is like student government, which you probably have at your high school. You can run for a position on the student union from your first year. We have athletics teams as well. And there are always events happening on campus. So trivia nights, coffee houses, different theatrical performances, which you could also get involved in. Just always something different happening on our campus. So now that I've talked about St. Thomas, you might want to know a little bit more about how to become a student. I hope you want to know a little bit more about this. So first of all, get to know St. Thomas. That'd be step one. And you're doing that right now by attending this webinar. So thank you again for doing that. And then next you would apply, and you can do that online at stu.ca/apply now or through the Common App. And our application is open, so it's available for you to do now. It's very simple to fill out online, and then you would just have your transcript from your high school emailed to admissions@stu.ca. So that website will walk you through that process. Once you are accepted, we would encourage you to apply for scholarships and bursaries, which you do on that website right there again. So we have quite a few scholarships and bursaries available to our students. We really do encourage you to make an application for that. After that, you can apply for residence. We do have guaranteed housing before April 15th. If you are interested in living on campus, we can guarantee you a spot. And then after that, you would confirm your enrollment with a deposit, and then you can start to choose your courses in the spring, which is the exciting part because that means that you're actually coming to St. Thomas and you're going to, study what you're interested in. So yes, I'll talk a little bit more about scholarships and bursaries, just because I know that that is definitely something people are interested to know about. So basically, you can attend a scholarship information webinar if you'd like to, the Winter Open House Scholarship Workshop, or you can meet with an admissions counselor for help in this process. We definitely encourage you to get all the information that you might need, but the application itself is not due until March 1st. So on the application, we would ask you to upload a few documents. So one is a personal statement letter. So that's something that you write just to tell us more about who you are, a resume, a letter of reference, which might come from a guidance counselor or a teacher, somebody who knows you well and can speak to, who you are, what you've been involved with in your high school career, a bursary letter as well, and an updated academic transcript if there have been changes to your transcript. So as you received new grades or whatever it is. So we ask for you to upload those things, and that would be your scholarship application. But again, we can help you to prepare that. And we have lots of information sessions more specific to scholarships that we would definitely encourage you to attend. And I would also definitely encourage you to schedule a virtual or in-person campus tour. So as you are all a little bit far away, I definitely understand if you can't visit us physically. We would love to have you if you're ever in the area, absolutely. But in the meantime, we do virtual campus tours. So these are given by current students who have lots to say about their STU experience. And you hop on a Zoom call and they'll show you around the campus, give you a lot more of those details about day-to-day student life, the academic programs that you're interested in, etc. So they are really a good way to see St. Thomas and kind of start to picture yourself there and get a lot of those burning questions answered as well. So you can easily book those just on our website or by contacting an admissions counselor, and we can help to arrange that. So we would love to have you attend a campus tour, whether it's in person or virtual. And we also have lots of virtual events and in-person events. Again, if you could ever attend, we'd love it. But we do have some virtual events. So actually this Saturday, we have a virtual open house, and it's not too late to register if you're interested in registering for that. So that will just be a few hours on Saturday morning. We're going to have some staff from the school, some professors, and also some current students attend in some panel sessions just to talk more about St. Thomas. So you could attend that, ask some questions, and kind of get a good idea of everything STU related. So there are some important dates on here that I've mentioned, deadlines just for scholarships applications. We also have a spring open house happening in person on March 25th, but we do have quite a few virtual events that are occurring throughout the year. So you can find out about those and register for them at stu.ch/stubound. But you might also get some emails about those if you're signed up for our emails. So keep an eye out for those and join any of the virtual events that you're interested in attending. And we encourage you to apply today if you're interested in STU. You can do it at stu.ca/apply now. And if you have any questions about applications, please feel free to reach out to an admissions counselor. We're happy to talk to you and guide you through that process a little bit. So yeah, we would love to see your application come in. Thank you so much for listening to my rambling. I think it is about time for us to get on to the next part of this evening, where we want to hear from all of you there in the Q&A box. So I'm going to be joined now by Mike, who is a fellow admissions counselor of mine, and then also Elisha, who is a current STU student. So these are both great people to ask these questions to, and I'm really excited to kind of get things started with that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Louise. Thank you again for providing a overall comprehensive STU overview. I know that's a lot of information to get through all at once, and I know it's something that you're quite used to at this point, but nonetheless, phenomenal job, very comprehensive and very well-oriented about things. So before we do get started, I can kind of introduce myself and then allow for Elisha to give a little bit of context, so that way we can kind of round out who you're hearing from the panel tonight. But yeah, I am a digital admissions counselor, hence me being digitally here. So what that kind of entails is a lot of these virtual events that are going on. There's probably a good chance you've seen me here before. There's probably future events that you might even be seeing me at still. So in light of that, it's great to have you folks here tonight with us. We appreciate the questions that have been coming in so far. And over the next 25 or so minutes, we'll do what we can to answer as many as we can. But before we get started with that, I think it's probably fair to have our third panelist here provide a little bit of context. So Elisha, if you don't mind speaking to really just a little bit about, where you're from, programs that you've studied, currently studying as well, things that you're up to, just things like that. So that way it kind of gives a bit of a temperature check for our audience here this evening.
All right, thank you. So my name is Elisha, as you've probably heard already. I am a fourth year student, so my time is almost done here, which is weird to think about. I am currently honoring in human rights, also majoring in political science, and I have a minor in great books. I saw a question about that. Always happy to answer questions about it because I didn't know what it was until I started studying here and stumbled upon it by accident. I am from Toronto, but that is, I guess, just the most recent place that I lived. I grew up overseas, so I definitely get the whole moving from city to city. I also saw a question about that. So feel free to throw any more Ontario specific questions or human rights, political science, or great books related questions. And another thing about me is I work in residence life. So Louise mentioned Holy Cross. I am the residence coordinator there this year. I've lived in that building for 3 years. I was a resident advisor last year, so also residence related questions, I can probably answer them.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Tell you what, Louise, we will direct questions as we see fit, but I'll ask the first question to you because we'll do what we can to answer as many as we can, depending on the topic. If there's similarity, we might jump our way down the list and try and answer questions as we go. But the first question that I will ask to Louise in this case. So we have someone wondering, how did your time in the Bachelor of Arts and the programming involved with that kind of compare to your experience in the BED, the Bachelor of Education? I guess that might be the full way of saying it. If we use acronyms, I apologize.
No, that is a really, really good question. So they are quite different just because when you're in the Bachelor of Arts, you are really in control of your schedule. You pick what you want to study completely. So you have a lot of flexibility and a lot of kind of wiggle room. So two students who are in the Bachelor of Arts could be living completely different lives, academically speaking, and how they kind of build their schedules and just their day-to-day life. Whereas the Bachelor of Education, it's only 1 year, whereas a lot of education degrees will be a little bit longer, 16 months to 2 years. So it is a intense program. So you are very immersed in the education courses. You spend a lot of time just in the same building doing all your courses with the same group of small people. And you are also doing teaching placements. So you have 2 placements, they total 16 weeks. So you're actually outside of the classroom a lot during that time. So very different, but the STU values and the STU community still is the same in those programs, of course. You're still on campus a lot of the time and you're still enjoying the same type of STU life. But in terms of the courses that you're taking, of course, they're all education focused and everything is just, you're more in a little education bubble while you're in that program.
Perfect. In which case, Louise, I'll turn the floor over to you to ask the next question.
Yeah, for sure. So this is a great question. It's, what do you enjoy most about living in Fredericton? And maybe we can all quickly answer this one. I think I mentioned this in the presentation, but I just love how walkable Fredericton is. I can walk to work at St. Thomas. I can walk downtown to the farmers market on a Saturday morning to get some fresh orange juice. And it's just a really nice city if you like to walk and be outside and feel like you're very connected. Can walk really anywhere that you want to go. So it's quite nice for that reason personally. And maybe Elisha, if you want to answer next.
Yeah, so I'm definitely originally from a bigger city and before that an even bigger one, but I actually love how contained everything is. Louise said like walkable, but even campus itself, everything is on one hill, which is fantastic. And I would say that we probably have some of the best views in the city too. You can see all of the like leaves turning color when the river is frozen over. It looks really cool. And campus actually like directly looks down and you can see like all the way through to the river and to the other side of the city as well. So it's a pretty cool view.
Well said. And I will try to not copy. You can probably get the takeaway here that is great as there is for like opportunities to be around other people, like the nature and like, well, somebody said it really well. An international student a few years ago said that it, depending on the time of year, living in Fredericton is kind of like living in a garden, which even downtown is kind of, I know it's really kind of warm feeling. It's nice. But I would say that too. I would say that aside from the community, which everybody's very friendly, I'm obviously a bit of a home bias being from New Brunswick originally and growing up here, but a lot of my friends that have moved to Fredericton, moved to New Brunswick, they talk about just the general friendliness of people without it really feeling like it's a requirement. People hold doors for people here, which as someone that's been to the GTA plenty, I'm aware that that's not always the case. And that's just part of the system there. People are just, there's so many people that you kind of have to just, worry about getting things done for yourself. So that's really nice here in Fredericton. I've seen people pulled over on the side of the road helping other people if they've had an issue with their car. I've seen strangers offering just random things to people if they happen to have an extra thing or if they're giving away something at the farmer's market. So it's a really nice, wholesome community. But then on top of that, I would also say that similar to Elisha and Louise's responses to this, just being able to have such a walkable area to really get anywhere you need to go from point A to B is really relieving when it comes to busier days, and even if you need to unwind a little bit, it's really easy to pop in your headphones, go for a walk on the trails, go to the walking bridge along the river, and kind of just go uninterrupted for a decent little while to be able to listen to music, a podcast, whatever you need to kind of decompress on the day. It's a really easy place to kind of get away a little bit too. So yeah, that's a long-winded way of trying not to copy everybody else's answers, but okay, let's see. We have a question that's kind of neat. So there's certainly opportunities to study on campus, and there's more than enough. If you ever want to do a virtual tour, if you ever come to campus, there's some very good study locations, depending on what kind of noise level you're looking at. But we have someone asking about study places in the city that we would recommend. So I think we'll roundtable this one again. We can go myself and then Elisha and then Louise, if you want to answer yours and then even ask another question after that, that's great. So I would say that if you're looking for a place to kind of work in the city, there's plenty of niche little coffee shops, which I know if you're from certain metro centers in Ontario or even Quebec, there's more than enough tasteful coffee shops to last you a lifetime. But there's a couple of neat places downtown. One that I know is quite popular is a place called The Muse. It's a very nice coffee shop with access to goodies and nice coffee and all of that. Milltown Roasters is also probably a popular one too. That's kind of got a nice view of one of the main streets of downtown. I even know some people that honestly, they go downtown and they study outdoors. That is very much weather pending. We had a bit of snow today. Probably not the case today, but I know students that study out in the courtyard. There's students that go along the green is what it's called on the waterfront, where it's kind of just a lot of green space and grass. Where students will just go with friends, take a blanket, and do some reading or studying along that. So I would say that's probably a recommendation of mine. Elisha, is there anything that you'd recommend for a study place off campus?
There is also a pretty great library downtown that also great views. It is right along the water. So if you are tired of the campus libraries, you can head downtown and use theirs.
Yes, the library, that's what I was going to say after the coffee shop. So, but I will speak to Mike's point about studying outdoors. There's a park in the city called Odell Park, which is really, it's a big, beautiful park, lots to walk through. I don't study anymore, but I still take a book there or take a journal there and sit on a picnic table. They have shelters with picnic tables underneath them. And I can spend hours there, like reading or doing whatever. So that's another spot if you do in the warmer months, if you like to be outdoors, definitely. The next question I'm going to toss to Elisha. So it's, how is the weather in Fredericton compared to provinces in central Canada? And I lived in Toronto for 1 year, so I feel like I only experienced one winter. I can't speak as much to what the difference is. So maybe Elisha, if you feel like you could take a stab at this one.
Okay. I am no climate expert, disclaimer. Also, I feel like central Canada can have very different forecasts. I will say compared to the GTA specifically, I'd say more snow, but I found that Toronto is a lot more damp because of the lake. Like we've got the river here, but that has been my, the wind feels worse in Toronto, in my opinion. One thing I have noticed is the sky is a lot more blue here. I don't know if that's a pollution thing or if that actually has to do with the weather. I will say though, it is the East Coast, so we do get snow. It can be cold at times, but that is the nice thing about campus being nice and contained, is you don't have to spend all that much time outside during the winter if you don't want to.
Well said. Let's see. I'm going to actually pass this back to both of you. We'll start with Louise on this one, just because we have some human rights alum or soon to be alum, I guess, here at the same time. So we have someone wondering, what was your favorite human rights class? And then I'll double down on that, so it might take an extra second of thought. What was your favorite class outside of human rights? So we'll start with Louise, favorite human rights class, non-human rights class, and then Elisha, you can pitch in on that as well.
This is a genuinely difficult question because there are so many that come into my brain. When I think about my favorite courses overall, it's overwhelming a little bit. I'll talk about one that I did really like that just comes up, which would be probably, there's a course called Crimes Against Humanity, which is one of those courses that I pictured studying when I thought about what human rights would mean. So it covered different atrocities that have happened in the world that were human rights abuses. So things like genocides, things like wars. So it was a heavy course, a heavy topic to talk about, but we looked at, why those occurred. So you looked at a lot of politics, international relations type topics, and you studied, the international treaties that could have and should have prevented those topics. So it was a very interesting, very informative course. So I really, really liked, I took away a lot. I learned a lot in that class. And then outside of human rights, I took one course. I did a whole Spanish degree, and I don't know if I could pick one Spanish class because I loved them all so much. So I'll talk about an elective I took, which was an economics class that I did not expect to like at all because I didn't know that I would like economics, but it was called Gender in the Global South. So it talked about the political economy of women in the global South of our world. So gender issues that occur in terms of how women's labor is looked at. And this is a class I could not ever zone out in. Like, I was fully engaged every single second that I was sitting in this class. I wish I could take it again. It was just wonderful. So I could talk about that really, really a long time. So I'll stop.
All right, I will chime in, and I made sure I picked a different human rights course as a fellow human rights student. Like Louise said, it is actually difficult to choose one. I quite enjoy the program. I took social justice and activism last year, which was a really neat course where the professor allowed for a lot of creativity within the course. So instead of, for instance, handing in a final paper, you could pitch like a creative project. So I know there were people who did various forms of art, who did pieces of spoken word. It was really cool for professors to acknowledge that sometimes like paper writing is not the only way to learn in a classroom setting. And it was really informative, and I thought like really relevant to today's day and age where we do see a lot of kind of social justice or activist movements. And my favorite non-human rights course, I would say, is probably Model UN, so Model United Nations, which Stu has. Last year, because of the pandemic, we competed at the North American Model United Nations, which was very cool. There were students from all across North America, but also lots of students from overseas that competed within it. And what makes that a cool class is you learn about how the UN operates, but a lot of it is about being in groups and practicing and more of that experiential learning that Louise talked about. And I know this year's class is actually getting to compete at the Harvard Model United Nations. So if that is something that you are interested in, it's a very cool class. And if you don't like sitting down for long periods of time, that is not a class where someone's just going to talk at you.
That's awesome. That's a great point. I'll ask a question here, if I may. I think I want to just quickly answer this question. Am I able to dabble in classes both in social sciences and humanities? This is a really good question. So as I did mention this earlier, that you create your schedule. It's up to you what you want to take. So you can absolutely take courses in any stream of academic that we have at St. Thomas. So you'll hear us talk about, what we took. We kind of pieced together the majors, the programs that we wanted to do, and then even took courses outside of those specific programs. So absolutely, you can take courses in anything that you like while you're at St. Thomas. You build your schedule. So a lot of opportunity to explore, which is a huge benefit. So I hope that answers that one well. Just so everybody knows that it's an important one to know. Yeah, Mike, do you want to ask another one?
Yeah, certainly. And for context, folks, I realize that we probably have somewhere around 7 or 8 minutes left in the session. So we'll try and keep getting through questions. That being said, we will give you ways of keeping in touch after this session. This does not have to be the first and only time you ever ask questions about St. Thomas to people that like to talk about St. Thomas. Okay, this is an interesting one too. And actually, I'll segue to one really quick, but then there's one here that I think we could probably talk a little bit about too. This is a really common one that I see a lot when I'm working with students once they're kind of getting a sense of our programs, but I think it's best that they hear it from at least a recent source in this, in Elisha. Someone's asking, what is great books? Which is kind of a deceiving title in itself, because it might not just be like, oh, your favorite book. So yeah, Elisha, if you want to speak to at least what your experience has been in great books so far in your time that you've gotten to study in a little bit.
That's a great question because honestly, I didn't know what it was. In my first year, my mom was helping me with course selection, and she saw this thing called the Aquinas Great Books program that you can do in your first year, where you can take courses like Intro to Political Science, Intro to Philosophy, in this group seminar setting. So instead of having professors more so lecture in all of the courses, there's at least 2 professors usually involved in each class, and we learn by reading books. So there's no textbooks in the class. One perk of that is that it saves you some money. And we read everything from kind of what might be considered classics or the works of kind of philosophers like Plato or Aristotle to things that are modern. So for instance, in one class, I read the Watchmen graphic novel. And what's cool about it is it's a program that if you do it as a major or even as a minor, like I'm doing, it pairs really well with others. So for instance, last year, I took a course that was called Freedom, that was looking at what freedom kind of means in a political sense and even in the human rights sense of it. And it is a course that you can do this thing called a cross-listed course where it would count towards my human rights major and also towards my political science. So it's a great program to combine with like political science or great books. I know there's journalism students that have combined it. I've taken journalism courses through it. But yeah, it's a way of learning that is a lot more discussion oriented, and it's through reading kind of primary texts instead of textbooks and interpretations of them. So I don't know if that helps.
It certainly does. I realize that I've kind of teased in that I have another question to ask immediately afterward, and then I kind of paused in case Louise was going to ask it. So apologies for that. Actually, Louise, I might ask you about this one just so that way you can kind of speak to your experience a little bit, whether it be BA, BED, some combination of the two. There's probably commonality in the both. So we have someone which makes sense depending on the schools and the size of the schools in general. But with the small classes here, they're wondering, is it a bit less awkward per se to kind of get to know a professor and kind of in short, do first year professors actually go on to teach upper year level courses, which depending on the schools that you're aware of, that would make total sense as certain professors might just be kept to certain years. But Louise, I won't spoil anything too further if you want to talk to it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I personally I was very shy when I graduated high school and came to university, and I was scared of professors just before I got to campus. I just thought that they were like these like mega teachers. I don't know. But then when I came to St. Thomas, I realized that they were very, very personable, very easy to get to know. And I mentioned this earlier, but I really think a lot of the professors who do come to St. Thomas come because they want to teach. They want to get to know their students. They don't want to teach to an auditorium of 300 kids that they can't see face to face. So they are interested in getting to know you. So yeah, it's definitely not awkward. And the professors often do teach upper year courses. So because our departments are smaller, because we're small, so for instance, the Spanish department that I was in, there were just 4 professors, four full-time profs. So I had those 4 professors throughout my 4 years, which was really wonderful because they got to see my progress, and I got to get to know them more and get to see more of what they were interested in as we went from first year, more generalized courses to the specific, areas of study. In 4th year, we both got to kind of see each other, get to know each other more. So it's a really, really cool and unique opportunity. So yes, it's definitely not awkward.
Elisha, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, just speaking to that, my idea of university, I guess, as someone from Ontario, was that, a TA marked your papers. You were lucky if the prof knew your name based off of attendance. So when I showed up to St. Thomas University in my first year and some of my classes had 8 people in them, I was like, this is very odd. They obviously know my name. They're interacting with me. They're giving me personal feedback. They're the ones who are marking like the work that I'm producing. So it's really easy to have a conversation with them about it. But as Louise kind of alluded to, it is very cool for them to kind of see your progress and act as mentors even later on. So I mentioned I'm in my 4th year, so I'm in the process of applying to grad schools. And what's been really neat is I've had professors who I've either taking classes for, or they're supervising my thesis, or I've even gotten the chance to work on research projects with them. And because they've seen my progress through that, they're really helpful through the grad school stage, which if anyone is thinking about that, that is like one advantage here is like you will never have trouble if you're a good student getting a reference letter from a professor because they genuinely know who you are. Because you've had plenty of opportunities to interact with them. And most of the time, I would say it's definitely not awkward.
Awesome. Sorry, Mike. I wasn't sure if you had another one that you wanted to address before we go, because we only have 2 minutes. Do we have time to do one more?
Tell you what, we'll make an exception. We can do 2 more. We will allow for 2 more. So you can take your pick of the field of remaining questions, Louise.
Okay, awesome. Maybe, Mike, do you want to just answer this one quickly about what is worth mentioning in a scholarship application?
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. As someone that similar to Louise kind of co-serves a purpose on the scholarship committee, it's kind of nice to know about what goes into kind of a worthwhile scholarship application. So I'll try and keep it as abbreviated as possible. Let's call it as a teaser for better ideas of, we're going to have events actually about scholarship and bursary application writing. So we actually have online events that are set up for these kinds of things over the course of the coming academic year, if you're in your grade 12 year, which presumably most folks are. Honestly, what is worthwhile is even just booking a one-on-one meeting with an admissions counselor as well. So those are 2 things that are going to kind of serve as a little pre-context to additional information. But if I could say anything that might be worthwhile mentioning in a scholarship application, one is that this is probably the peak moment in your young life to not be humble. If you were the lead on a major initiative at your school or a project or an academic research-based thing going on at your school, talk up to it. If you were the individual lead on this, even though you did have some support from classmates or from group members, you can certainly talk to that, but you don't necessarily have to be humble and say that it was a really strong team effort. If you were the lead on something, this is your peak opportunity to brag to that. I can assure you that your friends, your group members, your classmates aren't going to be the ones reading your scholarship application. So by all means, this is the peak opportunity to brag yourself up a little bit. On top of that, bring up a lot of your involvements over your high school career in particular. Even if it's something like working a part-time job, these are all qualities that show that you're able to balance a few things at once. A big piece of advice I might make as a recommendation to grade 12 students: I'm aware that senioritis exists. If you are a grade 12 student and you are kind of in that place where you're thinking, oh, well, I mean, I've already been accepted. Things are looking good. I'm just looking forward to kind of a fresh start in university, all of that good stuff. Those are all really important things to look forward to. But your academics are certainly something that are going to be considered as part of your scholarship application. So if you need a little bit of motivation that has a bit of financial incentive to it, keep working that much harder, because the little extra that you push yourself might have a really, really good long-term payoff. So 1, don't be humble. 2, keep working hard. And 3, check in with us and attend info sessions and meetings to kind of make sure that we can help you along that process. So that is one question down. Louise, is there one question in particular that you want us to close on that you can see from the field?
Yes, I would definitely say we should answer, what is your favorite thing about stew? That's always a good one to answer. I'll go first, maybe just because I'm already talking. I think I would say my favorite thing about stew is how much growth people go through while they're at St. Thomas. I said earlier, I was very, very shy when I first came to stew. I had all these opportunities where I was kind of, outside of my comfort zone. I had to speak up, I had to make friends. And because of a whole host of opportunities I had, both in classrooms and through job opportunities and clubs, I gained a lot of confidence, and I am no longer a shy person. So I think I've watched so many people go through similar transitions at St. Thomas. It's a place where people really grow and thrive. So I love, love, love seeing that about Stu. So Elisha, do you want to go next?
All right, this is going to be cheesy, but I've got the little banner behind me of the small university, big opportunities. But it really is true. Honestly, for instance, as a human rights student, Last year, I had the chance to do an internship through the Atlantic Human Rights Center, where I worked with the former Secretary General of Amnesty International, which, like, if you told grade 12 me, I would be like, there's no way that would ever happen. They actually ended up flying me out to Ottawa to speak at a conference, which was really cool. And there's been other things like getting to do Model UN for a course and compete against other schools. I'm also involved in moot court. Again, as a first year student, getting to work on a research contract is pretty unheard of in most places, but at St. Thomas, if you are working hard, you get to know your prof, there's a chance it can happen. So I think there really are some big or kind of special opportunities that you might not get elsewhere. And that's probably my favorite thing because it is helping me out as I am applying for grad school.
Perfect. And I guess I can conclude by, before we wrap up here, by it's kind of a direct relation almost to what Elisha was saying, and even what Louise was saying. All of it in a lot of ways kind of comes down to the people. And that's probably what my favorite thing about STU is just the people that make up this community. Obviously, we're a community within a community next door to a couple of other kind of communities. So it's really neat to kind of see how the STU community sticks out a little bit, or at least the people that are here, they kind of get it while they're here. So for the experiences that Louise has talked about, for Elisha's experiences, a lot of these stem from professors, from faculty members, from staff members, support service members that really work tirelessly to ensure that the best quality experience that they can offer these students is something that they're really putting their blood, sweat, and tears into, frankly. We have a teaching staff and professors that will not only for recruitment and admission related events want to come and meet with students that are still kind of figuring out their options. They really want to be a part of that next step for students, and they want to show that from the get-go. Even support staff, people will take time out of their own personal time to make sure that there's students that feel comfortable. It's not an uncommon thing if a student's not necessarily from the Fredericton area. We've had students, even one of our colleagues between Louise and I, one of our colleagues got stuck in Fredericton over the holidays just due to a travel restriction, I think, that was still existing due to COVID or even weather or something along the lines of that. Their professor, who really only knew them for a semester, had them over for the holidays, which is not something that you really hear of very often. So people care here. I guess that might be the bottom line of it. But that being said, there's probably plenty of pros and positives and warm, feely moments that we could talk about, but there's more opportunities to learn about this. So as we kind of wind down, it's probably a good opportunity to know if you want to see anything for yourself, whether it's about dates, deadlines, upcoming things. We are on the major social channels, so most of them are just at St. Thomas U. Or even if you look up St. Thomas University, we're probably going to be showing up. So if you ever want to see what's going on with like current events, current student projects, more often not people that complete honors thesis work, a lot of those kind of neat initiatives find their way to social media and kind of seeing what students are doing actually in their current time. So feel free to check in that way. That being said too, Louise already plugged it, so I'll be brief on this, but we do have a virtual open house coming up in just a couple of short days. So if you want kind of that opportunity from the comfort of home to hear from faculty, staff members, professors from a variety of different departments, we have a lot of social sciences and humanities representation that's going to be coming. A lot of it's going to be very Q&A style like this. So this is probably the easiest opportunity to sit on a couch, wear whatever you want, and be behind kind of the veil of Zoom and kind of pose whatever questions you're thinking. So it's a really easy way to kind of keep up to date about it. And you can just register at stu.ca. But nonetheless, you definitely have means of keeping in touch with us. We've already kind of highlighted that a little bit. So we want to thank you for making the time to join us again this evening. Again, depending on if there's anybody joining us from other parts of the globe this morning, this afternoon, but nonetheless, this evening for us. And I want to thank predominantly Elisha and Louise for some wonderful Q&A answering. Elisha taking the time out of this evening by being an RC, on top of that, a residence coordinator. You have a busy schedule, so we appreciate you making the time. And then Louise, kudos to you for being a wonderful MC and kind of moderator and all of this too. But otherwise, we thank you very much. And for the sake of everybody's time, we will wrap up here. But thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you at the next in-person event or even virtual event or meeting or what have you. But then again, there's plenty of opportunities to connect. So take care and have a great evening.